أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين هو ربنا وهو رب الأولين والآخرين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وأكرم المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومعيته أجمعين. Dear brothers and dear sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We will continue this week with the first Asabiyyah, Asabiyyat Bani Israel, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shedding light on their deviations and their deceptions and their dubiousness. And probably next week or the week after, we will shift to the second Asabiyyah, which is the Asabiyyah of the Muslim dynasties that ruled after the Khulafa and the Imams. Last week we spoke about the introduction to Surah Al-Isra, and that was the last ayat of Surah Al-Nahl. And the last ayat of Surah Al-Nahl are the ones that immediately precede Surah Al-Isra. And a quick reminder, there is no division between the end of Surah Al-Nahl and the beginning of Surah Al-Isra. The end of Surah Al-Nahl carries over into the beginning of Surah Al-Isra. And we ended last week by beginning to explain the first ayah in Surah Bani Israel, which is Surah Al-Isra. And the ayah begins with the word Subhan. The whole ayah, Subhan alladhi asra bi'abdihi layla min al-masjid al-haram ila al-masjid al-aqsa الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير. We began to explain the word Subhan, the first word in the first ayah in Surah Al-Isra. And we said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and notice many speakers, when they mention the word Allah, which is called Lafz al-Jalala, the majestic pronunciation, they follow the word Allah by saying Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we said Subhan is the word that means that there is nothing that equates to Allah. There is nothing that resembles Allah. There is nothing that is similar to Allah. In the spheres of our human mind, there's three capacities. There's Allah as Himself, there's Allah as His attributes or descriptions, and there is Allah as His works or deeds or actions or involvement. In these three capacities in which our mind attempts, we can't understand Allah. It takes a type of divinity to understand Him, and we are not divine. We are not gods. So anyone who claims that he or she has an exhaustive understanding of Allah is a person who's expressing their own ignorance. And that's what the word subhan means. It means in the infinite. We are saying in the infinite of time and space, and every ability that we have to understand things, there is Allah is like nothing that we know, and everything that we know is nothing like Allah subhanahu. There are other ayat in the Quran that use the same source word. It's not the same word. The word is subhan. But you will find in other ayat in the Quran, there's the word sabbaha. And there is the word yusabbih. The word subhan is a noun. The word sabbaha is the past tense. The word yusabbih is the present tense. And they refer to the actions of entities, whether they are humans or whether they are in the kingdom of animals or the kingdom of plants. There is nothing in existence except that it exalts and extols and glorifies and praises Allah. So when you read the word sabbaha, sabbaha lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard, yusabbihu lillahi ma fi samawati wal ard, you will find these ayat in the Quran, and they are referring to the timely expression of tasbih. But subhan is exhaustive of the timely and the untimely. Allah is we say subhan, meaning in the mutlaq, in the infinite meaning of the word. And this is how the surah begins, subhan. And we said that this word subhan is mentioned when we encounter unusual things, extraordinary things, miraculous things, things that unexpectedly happen or take place. That's what we say, subhanallah. So this ayah, subhan alladhi asra bi'abdihi layla. Exalted and extolled is he who asra bi'abdihi layla. Asra, let me try to fill you in on how rich these ayat in the Quran are. If you were to review the Islamic literature, the tafsir books, and other, let's say, academic work on the meaning of this ayah, you will find that the word asra means traveling by night. And then you will find the same word meaning elevated in status. And here is where, of course, most of, to the best of my research and the best of my readings, most of those who understood this ayah and thus explained it would tell you that asra means traveled during the night. And therefore, the meaning of this ayah would be, extolled and exalted is he who has taken his subject during the night, in a night. And there becomes some type of question mark here. And that is, and I haven't found anyone who gave, and my readings are not exhaustive. I haven't read everything in the world about this ayah. I'm sure there's others who try to give this a satisfactory answer. The question is, why is the verb asra, which means night travel, traveling by night, to travel during the night, is followed by the word night? It could have been سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى, and skip the word or omit the word Layla, because it's already, the meaning by night is already included in the verb asra. So my explanation of this would be, because I'm going to go to the second understanding of this ayah. But in this first understanding, Subhana alladhi asra, asra here means made him travel by night. Allah made Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam travel by night. And then the word Layla, meaning during the night, during nighttime. This word Layla here is not in reference to a physical night, meaning the night that is juxtaposed with daytime when the sun is out. Layla here means the night of social affairs. So it's not the literal understanding of the word night. It is an extrapolative understanding of the word night. The Prophet was living in a dark night. We explained in the previous presentation the circumstances that he was going through. He lost his uncle, he lost his wife, he went to a Ta'if, and he lost the ambition he had there of having some support come to him from a Ta'if. And before that, he had lost some of his companions who had gone by his permission, of course, and due to his counseling, they went to Al-Habasha. All of these events put together became a psychological night. So this is the explanation of why you have the word asra, travel, during a physical night, unto the final destination, which, as far as the Isra is concerned, not the Mi'raj, which is going to be Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa in Al-Quds, during a psychological and social night. So the word Asra and the word Layla bring together the physical and the psychological, the material and the social. Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi layla. That's one understanding of the ayah. Now we go on to another understanding, and these are not conflictory understandings. Remember, when we are reading the Quran, when we are reading these ayat, and when we are thinking about the choice of words and the phraseology of these words, they open up a fertility of meanings. And now to the second understanding. It begins, Subhana alladhi asra. Asra here means to elevate. If you can go to the ayah in Surah Maryam, I think it is, جعل تحتك سريا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says when Maryam al-Adhra, the Virgin Mary, when she gave birth to Isa, Jesus, alayhi salatu wassalam, when she gave birth to him, Allah described that baby infant, Isa, beneath her as a sari. Ja'ala tahtaki sariya. The word sariya, for those of you who are interested in etymology and syntax and these linguistic details, it's similar and this is where Latin languages may have been, I haven't done any research here, but an educated leap of logic would say that the English word sir and the Latin word señor capture some of the meanings of sari. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Maryam that this child that she just gave birth to, Allah has designated him as a sari. A little awkward translation would be he's a sir or he's a senior. He's a baby, but Allah is saying he's a senior, which means he is of an elevated status. So when we understand the word asra in this same ayah, the first ayah of Surah Al-Isra, Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi layla. Exalted and extolled and praised is he who has elevated his subject, elevated him in status, elevated him during the night. And here there is no contention between the word asra and the word layla. Subhana alladhi asra bi'abdihi layla. So the word subhan you will find also in other ayat in the Quran. Subhana alladhi sakhara lana hadha wama kunna lahu muqrinin. Ayah 13 in Surah Az-Zukhruf. And this you will see or you will hear or you will say, if you are aware of it, when you ride in a car or a ship or an airplane or some type of mode of transportation, you say, Subhana alladhi sakhara lana hadha وَمَا كُنَّا لَهُ مُقْرِنِينَ وَإِنَّا إِلَى رَبِّنَا لَمُنْقَلِبُونَ سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون. Surah Yasin, ayah 26. You will find the word Subhan in right now, from now on, when you read the Quran, just pay attention to the sentence and the meanings that are going to follow the word Subhan. And you will find that you will discover that they are wondrous meanings. Now, when this took place, when our beloved Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him and those who belong to him, when he went on this night journey, and remember, Allah elevated him because physically he was disappointed, to put it mildly. Some people say he may have been frustrated, and others may say he was losing hope. And these are all descriptions, of course, to try to understand the difficult conditions that he was in at that time. So when Allah elevated him physically and elevated him psychologically during this night journey. So when he came back from this night journey, the first part of it was from Mecca to Al-Quds. The second part of it was from Al-Quds to the heavens above. So when he came back and he expressed this fact to the people around him the following day, some people said, of course, some of them were Muslims, some of them were not Muslims. Most of them were not Muslims. And this person, the non-Muslim, said, this person must be out of his mind. The mushriks and the kafirs said, this person must be out of his mind. The best of our camels, it takes them about a month to go on this journey that this person, meaning Muhammad, is saying that he did within the span of one night. كيف هذا? They said, how can this be? وَنَحْنُ نَضْرِبُ إِلَيْهَا أَكْبَادَ الْإِبِلِ شَهْرًا. And we journey unto it with the best of our camel transportation means for a full month. وَأَنْتَ, meaning, and you, O Muhammad, تَدَّعِي أَتَيْتَهَا بِلَيْلَةٍ, and you're telling us that you did so within one night? Of course, this was cannon fodder for the propagandistic machines at the time. Of course, they didn't have BBC and CNN and these other news outlets that we have in the world, but they had at that time, whatever it was, their storytellers and their poets and their public speakers and their chieftains and the rest, using this as a means of trying to prove to the average person, look, this person who claims to be a prophet, he's telling us he went to Al-Quds, Jerusalem, and came back in one night. Now, there's a relationship between force and distance. If the amount of force is less, then it takes more time to go a certain distance. If the amount of force is more, it takes less time to go that certain distance. Let's say we want to travel from, let's see, what's a geography that many people may be familiar with? Let's say someone wants to go from Cairo to Casablanca, Dar al-Bayda, in Morocco, Maghrib. If the amount of force available to that person is minimal, meaning the means of transportation is humble, he's going to be going on a camel or a horse. That's the most force that that person has. If he's going to go that full distance, going from East Africa to West Africa, it's going to take him a long time. It's going to take him probably months. Now, if that force increases, let's say it goes from traveling on a camel or a horse to traveling in a car or a train, that's much more force power or much more horsepower, and then the time period is going to contract. It's going to be lesser time. Instead of going weeks and months on a primitive means of transportation that has lesser power, now we're using a more powerful means of transportation, and so traversing that same distance is going to consume less time. Now we add to that another degree or another amount of force or power, and we say we're going to travel from Cairo to Casablanca, min al-Qahira ila Dar al-Bayda. We're going to go by an airplane. Now the time is going to be constricted here to a few, maybe 3 hours or something, give or a little more, a little less, depending on if you're a turbo plane or you're a jet plane. Or so it's the more force you are talking about, the less time it's going to take to go that distance. Now that's an example. And I don't know, in the future, we humans, we may come up with an invention that will have us travel that same distance in minutes instead of hours. So there's a relationship here between the force that we are speaking about and the distance we are speaking about and the time it takes to travel that distance. So in this case, our dear Prophet, alayhi wa alihi salatu wassalam, he traveled from Mecca to Al-Quds, Jerusalem. Now, the distance is a fixed distance. I don't know how long it is in miles. I should have looked this up, but my educated guess would be probably 800 or 900 miles, maybe more than that, or kilometers. Now, this distance, did the Prophet travel this distance? Are we speaking about the force and power that the Prophet had? Or are we speaking about the force and power that Allah had? the mushriks and kafirs of Mecca, they omitted Allah from their mind, and they said, it's impossible for you, O Muhammad, to go this distance within one night. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, it wasn't Muhammad who traversed this distance. It wasn't by his own force and power. It was by Allah's force and power. And if Allah's force and power is infinite, then the time period that it takes to go that distance is probably in nanoseconds. So it's no longer impossible. And this is the difference between those who know that Allah can do things like that, and they have confidence in Allah, and those who reject Allah, and Allah has nothing to do with these types of issues. That's why the ayah here says, Asra bi'abdihi. It did not say Sara Muhammad. So Allah is the doer and Muhammad is the doer, so that doesn't become an impossibility like the media, the mainstream media wants us to believe then and now that it was impossible for Muhammad, Prophet Muhammad, Messenger Muhammad alayhi wa alihi salatu wassalam did. I know we are struggling through this ayah because it's taking us a little more time, but if we understand these meanings step by step, incrementally, we will appreciate much more what we used to understand in a more, let's say, superficial way. May Allah increase our knowledge. وَقُلْ رَبِّي زِدْنِي عِلْمًا وصلى الله على محمد وآل محمد والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.